I know your secret, not the one you whisper to others, the one you barely admit to yourself, the secret that says you're stronger than you think but tired of proving it, the secret that knows you've been hurt, slowed down, maybe knocked off course, yet somehow you're still here. See, life doesn't ask for permission before it tests you, it just shows up, unexpected, unfair, relentless. And in those moments when no one's watching, when the noise fades, that's where your real story lives. Tonight, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to remind you of something you already know, that the part of you that survived everything so far is the same part that will carry you forward, and that's the secret worth believing in. I know your secret, not because you told anyone, not because it shows on your face, but because it lives in the pauses between your words, in the way your eyes stay a moment longer on things that matter, in the way your heart reacts before your mind catches up. Your secret is not something shameful, it's not something dark, it's something fragile. You love deeply in a world that taught you to be careful. You feel more than you admit. You carry hope even after life showed you every reason not to. You pretend you're fine, but what you really are is brave in silence. You wake up every day and put yourself together like armor, but underneath that armor is a heart that still wants connection, still believes in meaning, still aches for something real. You don't talk about it because you learned that explaining yourself doesn't always lead to being understood. So you listen instead. You observe, you absorb, and you keep going. That's your secret. You're still here, still open, still choosing to feel when numbness would be easier. I know how love changed you. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, like water shaping stone. Love taught you how powerful vulnerability can be, and pain taught you how expensive it is. You loved someone or something or a version of life that didn't stay, and when it left, it didn't take everything. It left you with questions. It left you with memories that surface at random moments. It left you with a quiet fear that maybe caring this much is a weakness. But you keep caring anyway. You learned how to smile when you're tired. You learned how to say it's okay when it isn't. You learned how to be the strong one because someone had to be. But strength, real strength, isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up when no one is clapping, when there's no guarantee things will work out, when you choose kindness even though life hasn't always been kind to you. Your secret is that you didn't harden the way you were supposed to. You were hurt, disappointed, misunderstood, maybe even abandoned, and still you didn't turn cold, you didn't become cruel, you didn't stop believing that people can be better than their worst moments. That kind of softness takes courage, that kind of love takes resilience. I know there are nights when you replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said too much or not enough. Nights when silence feels heavier than noise. Nights when you question your worth because someone failed to see it. But even then, something inside you refuses to give up. You might doubt yourself, but you don't disappear. You stay, you breathe, you let the feeling pass through you instead of pretending it isn't there. Love for you isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about choosing to show up, even when you're scared, even when you don't know the outcome. You don't love halfway. You never did. And yes, that's why it hurt. That's why it still matters. But that's also why your love has weight. It means something. It changes things even when it doesn't last the way you hoped. You've seen the world at its sharp edges. You know how quickly things can fall apart. You know promises can break. You know people can leave without warning. And yet, you still believe in connection. You still believe that somewhere, someone will understand you without needing you to explain everything. You still believe that love doesn't have to be loud to be real. Your secret is that you're tired, but you're not done. You're wounded, but you're not weak. You've been quiet, but you've been listening to life closely. Every scar you carry is evidence that you felt something real. Every disappointment shaped you, not into someone bitter, but into someone aware. You see through illusions now. You recognize what matters. You don't chase noise anymore. You value truth even when it's uncomfortable. No, you sometimes wish you could go back to the version of yourself that trusted without fear. But the truth is, you didn't lose that person. You refined them. You gave them wisdom. You taught them boundaries. You taught them when to walk away and when to stay. Love didn't break you. It revealed you. There's a quiet dignity in the way you move through the world. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain your depth to people who only swim on the surface. You know who you are. Even when you doubt, even when you struggle, there's a core inside you that remains steady. It's the part of you that knows pain doesn't cancel purpose, that loss doesn't erase meaning. You feel things intensely, but you've learned, Ed, how to carry that intensity with grace. You don't explode, you don't collapse, you process, you reflect, you grow. You let the weight of experience turn into understanding instead of anger. That choice, made again and again, is what defines you more than anything that happened to you. I know your secret because I see it everywhere, in the way you help others without being asked, in the way you protect what's gentle, in the way you pause before responding, choosing empathy over impulse. You've learned that everyone is fighting something you can't see because you've fought battles no one noticed. You don't talk about the moments that almost broke you, the times you felt invisible, the times you questioned your value. You carried those moments alone, and somehow you came out with more compassion, not less. That's not accidental. That's a decision you made, consciously or not, to stay human in a world that often rewards indifference. Love still scares you, but it also calls to you. You know the risk now. You know what it costs. And yet, you haven't closed the door completely. You've just learned to open it slower, to let people earn their way in, to protect your heart without burying it. Your secret is that you're still hopeful, even when you pretend you're not. You still believe in meaningful conversations, in quiet moments, in connections that don't need constant validation. You believe in love that feels safe, not dramatic, love that stays, love that listens. You don't need applause. You don't need recognition. You just want honesty. You just want something real. And that desire, simple and profound, is what keeps you moving forward. It's what makes you get up after disappointment. It's what allows you to forgive without forgetting. It's what reminds you that your story isn't over. You are not defined by who left, who failed you, or who couldn't love you the way you deserved. You are defined by how you continued, by how you didn't let bitterness take root, by how you kept your integrity intact when it would have been easier to give up on people altogether. I know your secret, and I want you to know something too. The world needs people like you, people who feel deeply, people who choose kindness with open eyes, people who understand pain but don't worship it, people who know love is risky and choose it anyway. You may feel ordinary, but what you carry is rare. In a time where detachment is mistaken for strength, your willingness to care is an act of quiet rebellion. In a culture that moves fast, your depth slows things down. You remind others that there is more beneath the surface. You don't have to become harder to survive. You don't have to erase your sensitivity to be strong. What you are is already enough. What you've endured already speaks. And even on the days you feel unseen, unheard, or uncertain, that steady presence inside you remains. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're simply someone who knows what it means to love, to lose, to keep going without losing yourself. And that truth, the one you carry quietly, the one you rarely say out loud, the one that shapes every choice you make, is still alive, still breathing, still waiting in the spaces where hope refuses to disappear, in the moments when you pause and feel your heart reminding you that despite everything, you are still here, still open, still choosing to believe, still carrying that secret forward softly, steadily, like a light you protect from the wind, like a promise you haven't broken, like a story that continues even when no one is watching, like a truth that doesn't need permission to exist, like love that remains unfinished, unresolved, and real in the way it lives inside you without needing to be explained, without needing to be proven, without needing to end, because some things are meant to stay in motion, still unfolding, still becoming, still moving through you as you take the next breath and the next step and hold on to the quiet, knowing that what you feel matters, that what you are is not accidental, that the secret you carry is not a burden, but a reflection of how deeply you are capable of living, of caring, of staying present in a world that keeps testing you. And in that presence, there is meaning, there is connection, there is love, waiting, breathing, continuing. I know your secret, and this time it's about how you love, not the way it looks from the outside, but the way it survives inside you. You don't love loudly, you don't need grand gestures or constant proof. Your love is quiet, it stays, it endures. It waits without demanding, gives without keeping score, and holds on even when it's tired. You learn that love isn't always about being seen. Sometimes it's about choosing to remain when walking away would hurt less. You discovered early on that love doesn't guarantee safety, that caring deeply opens you up to loss, that the more you invest, the more there is to lose, and still you chose it, not recklessly, not blindly, but with awareness. You love knowing it might cost you something. That's not weakness, that's courage most people never practice. You didn't love because it was easy, you loved because it was real. There were moments when love asked more of you than you thought you could give, times when staying meant swallowing pride, times when caring meant being patient in silence. You didn't always get it right, you doubted yourself, you wondered if you were giving too much, if you were being foolish, if your heart was stronger than your sense of self-preservation. But every time you returned to the same truth, you would rather feel deeply than live untouched. Your love doesn't rush, it listens. It notices small changes in tone, pauses in replies, the weight behind words that sound simple. You pay attention because you care, and because you know how much it matters to be noticed. You remember how it feels when someone doesn't. So when you love, you try to be present in a way that heals rather than overwhelms. You've held love together with quiet hands, even when it was slipping, even when it was changing into something unfamiliar. You didn't fight to control it. You didn't force it to stay the same. You respected it enough to let it breathe, and when it hurt, you carried that pain without turning it into bitterness. You allowed yourself to grieve without letting grief define you. You understand now that love isn't always about happy endings. Sometimes it's about meaningful chapters, about moments that shape you, even if they don't stay forever. You've loved people who couldn't love you back the same way. You've loved through distance, through silence, through uncertainty, and you didn't stop being yourself in the process. You didn't lose your integrity. You didn't betray your values to be chosen. There's a softness in the way you love that the world doesn't always reward. You don't manipulate. You don't play games. You don't withhold affection to gain power. You offer honesty instead, even when it makes you vulnerable. You believe love should feel safe, not confusing, steady, not chaotic. And when it isn't, you feel it deeply because your heart recognizes imbalance before your mind can justify it. You've learned that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. That devotion doesn't require self-erasure. It took time. It took mistakes. It took loving the wrong people for the right reasons. But now you understand that the quiet endurance of love also includes knowing when to step back, knowing when staying becomes self-abandonment, knowing when silence is not peace. Still, even with all that knowledge, you didn't close yourself off. You didn't decide love wasn't worth it. You adjusted, you refined, you became more intentional. You stopped offering your heart to those who treated it like a convenience, but you never stopped believing in connection. You never stopped hoping for a love that meets you where you are. Your love doesn't try to save people, it walks beside them. You know everyone has their own battles. You don't confuse love with fixing. You understand support isn't control. And when you care, you give space without disappearing. You stay available without losing yourself. That balance didn't come easily. It was earned through loss. You love in a way that remembers. You remember birthdays, small preferences, stories told once and never repeated. You remember because details matter to you, because being remembered once made you feel seen. And when you love, you want the other person to feel that same sense of being held in someone's awareness. There were times when your love went unnoticed, when your effort blended into the background, when your presence was taken for granted. You didn't make a scene. You didn't demand recognition. You simply felt it quietly and let it teach you. You learned that not everyone has the capacity to receive what you give. That realization hurt, but it didn't turn you cold. It made you wiser. You know now that love is not about intensity alone. It's about consistency, about choosing someone not just in passion, but in patience. In ordinary days, in moments where nothing dramatic happens, you value the calm more than the chaos now. You understand that peace is not boring, it's rare. Your secret is that even after disappointment, your heart still leans forward, carefully, thoughtfully, but honestly, you haven't numbed yourself. You haven't replaced feeling with distraction. You still believe that love, when it's right, doesn't ask you to shrink or perform. It allows you to exist fully. You don't romanticize suffering anymore. You don't believe love has to hurt to be meaningful. You've outgrown that story. You want something gentler now, something mutual, something where effort flows both ways. And even if you don't have it yet, you haven't settled for less just to avoid being alone. Your love carries silence well. It doesn't panic in quiet moments. It understands that presence doesn't always require words. You can sit with someone, share space, share breath, and let that be enough. That kind of love isn't dramatic, but it's deep. It doesn't burn fast. It warms slowly. You still get scared. You still hesitate. You still feel the echo of past losses when you open up again, but you don't let fear make your decisions. You let awareness guide you instead. You know the risk, you accept it. Because a life without love, even with its pain, feels emptier than a life where you tried. You don't need to be promised forever to give something real. You give because it aligns with who you are. Because love to you is an expression of truth, not a transaction. And that truth continues to live in you, steady and quiet in the way you care, in the way you choose, in the way you remain open to connection, even when your heart remembers everything it's been through, even when it pauses before trusting again, even when it beats slower now, but with more intention, more clarity, more honesty, carrying that quiet endurance forward, holding love not as something to chase, but as something to live, something to recognize when it appears, something to protect without clinging, something that continues to exist in the space between courage and vulnerability, breathing softly inside you as you keep moving, keep feeling, keep allowing room for something real to grow without forcing it into an ending or a promise, just letting it be what it is, unfinished, ongoing, present in the way you remain capable of loving without losing yourself, present in the way you stay gentle without becoming fragile, present in the way your heart continues to choose depth over distance, connection over retreat, and quiet endurance over empty noise, still open, still aware, still carrying love forward as something alive, something patient, something that does not need to be explained or concluded, only lived moment by moment, breath by breath, in the space where trust is rebuilt slowly and feeling is allowed to remain without needing to arrive anywhere, without needing to resolve into certainty, without needing to stop continuing in the way it moves through you now, steady, restrained, honest, and unresolved, like the love you carry, like the choice you keep making to stay open even when the world has taught you every reason to close, choosing instead to remain here, feeling, enduring, loving, quietly, fully, still in motion,